In C# interviews, when scenario-based question comes up, when there is a deep cross-questioning, I have found that .NET developers stumble and fumble. And the reason for this confusion is, it can be multiple, right? One is, it can be fundamentals, it can be work experience around that topic, right? And so on. But most of the time I've found that it is fundamentals and how we can improve the fundamentals. So let us say if somebody is asking a question around delegates and events, right? Or somebody is asking a question around async await, right? So around these topics, you need to create a thinking model. You need to create a thinking architecture for these topics, right? Or we can say a mental model for these topics. So if the thinking framework is right around a topic, then I feel that the cross questions or any kind of deeper cross questions, you can answer it very easily. So I found that many developers, when a question comes to them, there is no thinking. Whatever answer is default in their mind, they will just come out with that answer, and that answer is just hearsay, or that answer is coming from ChatGPT, I don't know, right? And and when a cross question comes up, when deeper cross question goes in, right, suddenly you find that you're losing control over the interview. For example, let's talk about dependency injection. It is one of the most hot topic. Please note that if you want to know which is the most hot topic, what kind of questions are asked, I would suggest that please go to chatgpt.questpond.com. Over there, you can go ahead and you can ask, saying that, okay, which are the most asked questions? Because what we have done is that we have a WhatsApp group. If you want to join, you can join the WhatsApp group, right? In that WhatsApp group, we get a lot of C# experiences, .NET experiences of interviews. We have taken all that document and we have fed it to this chatgpt.questpond.com. So if you just go and ask, saying that, okay, tell me the top 10 questions, right, it will just come out with what are the top 10 questions, how many times it is asked, and which companies it is asked, right? So if you see the most asked question is around dependency injection. Now, when the question of dependency injection comes up, that why do you need dependency injection? I find many developers who say unit testing. They said unit testing, they say mock testing. Someone says it improves maintainability. But the base of dependency injection is loose coupling. So if your thinking architecture is the first thinking, what you have in your mind is saying that, okay, what is a fundamental, why does dependency injection exist, right? Then you will say, okay, that is loose coupling. So if that comes into picture first in your mental model for DI, then other things will set right. But what happens is, developer jumps into byproduct, saying that, okay, let's talk about unit testing, let's talk about something else, and then the interviewer will nicely take you for a ride. Now, let us take one more important topic: async, await versus threads versus task. Again, one of the most asked questions, right? Now, when this question comes up, right, and if the developer is having a right thinking model in his mind, saying that, okay, when you talk about async, it is related to concurrency, right? When you talk about parallelism, it is related to threads. If his thinking model starts from understanding the difference between a CPU bound task versus a IO bound task, everything will be set right. But then many developers don't understand it. They just start with saying that, okay, task is an encapsulation over async, over threads, and so on, right? And then you get into some kind of sentences like, async uses threads. And once you utter such kind of sentences, specifically seniors, I'm saying you, if you're saying that async is using threads internally, it sends out a very negative message to the interviewer. Now, let us take one more legendary topic which is asked for decades now, right? And it is still asked today: delegates and events. Now, in case of delegates and events, if your answer starts from the thinking that delegates is meant for callbacks, so whenever there is a multi-threaded process, whenever there is an async process, from there I want to get a callback, must be delegates is good to use. And when you talk about events, it is a publisher subscriber model. Means something happens at one place and you have to broadcast it at multiple places, right? So broadcasting model. When that thinking starts right, then all the things will fall at place, right? So any topic you take, right, around that, the thinking architecture, the mental model has to be right. If the mental model is right, then the cross questioning and the issues, right, when you are talking in the interview, or the scenario based also issues, right, can be resolved. So on the screen, I'm flashing some thinking framework diagrams out there. Actually, these are mind maps, so in other words, if this is like this, then what is the next thing you should have in your mind, and then what is the next thing you should have in your mind. So it's actually mind map diagrams. So by looking at those diagrams, if you understand those topics, right, I would suggest that please put down in the comments, that what you have understood. And remember that if you are a 5 years of subscriber, right, if you are having our 5-year subscription, right, please go ahead and watch C# interview questions, ASP.NET interview questions, SQL Server interview questions, Angular interview questions, architecture interview questions, right. Look at our step-by-step videos around microservices, Azure, AIML. We have just taken the training of AIML. Those are also recorded over there, right. Go ahead, but whenever you are watching these topics, right, make sure that you create that thinking framework in your mind. You create a mental model around the topic. And remember, so I will be flashing the diagrams out there, but one person's mental model, one person's thinking framework around a topic can differ, right? It can differ, but make sure that there is a roadmap, there is a mind map at least, that how you will explain that topic, how you will gradually progress around the topic, and how you will counter the questions what are coming up. And remember, for our 5-year subscriber, right, we have started a weekly training. So one is a training which is happening on Saturday and Sundays, right, the knowledge sharing sessions, but there is one session we are taking in between of the week from Monday to Friday. It can be on Thursday, it can be on Tuesday, right? And in that, what I'm doing is that actually I'm covering up interview question topics. So I take up a topic. Last time we have taken async and await, and around that, what questions are asked, how to handle those questions. Also, while I'm explaining those topics, I'm also performing some demos, right? And this week, we are starting with the microservices interview questions. So top 10, top 20 microservices interview questions. So this session will be divided into 2 parts. In part 1, we will do must be 10 questions. In the part 2, we will do 10 questions, right? And that will help you to get ready for microservices, right? So go ahead, attend those trainings, because in those trainings, not only I take up the most asked question around the topic, we discuss about the mind map, we discuss about the thinking model, the mental model also around that topic. So hope that you are liking Questpond, and thank you very much. And don't forget to follow us on WhatsApp. Don't forget to also follow me on LinkedIn. So I'm also highlighting my LinkedIn profile out there. And yes, if you want to ask anything, you can go to questpond.com. There is a chat window down below. Go ahead and start chatting as well, right? So happy learning and happy job hunting.